Hi, everyone. It's Sharna. This new series of episodes is quite a departure from anything you've heard so far on the podcast. It's a 3-part documentary series that tells the story of the first year of building a brand new tango community in Long Beach, California. If you're curious about the deeper meaning that many dancers find in the tango, check out the previous episode, What Makes Tango So Compelling?, which is actually a reverse interview with my longtime friend, actor and director, Donna Strate. You'll find the link in the show notes. After many years of tango retirement, I can tell you that no one is more surprised than me to be at the center of this story. At the same time, it is quite a magical one that has been a pure joy to live through. It's both my story of losing a dream and finding it again, and it's also a story of dozens of people coming together by chance in a way that feels like it was truly meant to be. It's a story full of friendship, connection, trust, and discovery, all the things we seek together on the dance floor. In this documentary series, you'll meet the people and places that summoned tango back into my life over the past year in the most exquisite and beautiful way. Being together in person is so important right now. Whether you dance tango or not, I hope you enjoy these episodes. The Tango Waits For You. Episode 1. The Dream. In downtown Long Beach, between a vacant retail storefront and a concrete office tower, there is an elegant golden brick building with 3 sharp peaked gables and a neoclassical facade. If you look up, you'll see swirling carved panels above the 3rd floor windows. This is the oldest building on Pine Avenue, a former Masonic temple built in 1903. It's had several makeovers since then, and is currently home to Alter Society Brewing and Coffee Company. Because I live in the neighborhood, I walk by this building all the time, and had peeked through the windows once or twice over the years, wondering what it might look like inside. There was a small sign about an event space. The building was shuttered completely during the pandemic years, and then reopened as Alter Society in late 2023. One day, drawn by a feeling I couldn't quite explain, I walked in. The pizza chef happened to be there and offered to show me the event space. We went upstairs, and then my jaw fell to the floor. It was one of those stop-time moments. The space was so beautiful and enormous. What you can't see from the outside is that the building is the entire depth of the city block. It has original dark wood flooring, exposed brick. The front half is now a huge open lounge area with couches and chairs and its own bar, and the back half is an epic open dance floor with arched ceilings, gold curtains, and vintage chandeliers. At this point, I had left tango almost 7 years ago. I had taught a private class here and there, but in my mind, I was no longer a tango teacher. I was someone else. I was a small business coach who painted in her spare time. Still, I couldn't help it. I saw tango dancers, I heard tango music. I felt something really powerful in that room and in that building, like the air was bending around me. The story of why I left tango began one midsummer day in 2010. That morning, I sat down at my desk in my apartment in Washington, D.C., where I lived at the time. On this day, though, I could not physically bring myself to open the laptop. My whole body was heavy, and I felt an almost painful sense of longing from deep within me. But I didn't know exactly what I was longing for. As a tango artist, I had everything going for me. I was coordinating a school for 100 students with 5 teachers and 6 classes a week. I was producing a popular social dance event and assembling the foundations of a local tango orchestra. I was directing my own dance theater productions. I was teaching every night, and I traveled to teach several times a year. And yet, something important was getting lost. I could say my plate was too full, but it was more than that. It was full of too many of the wrong things. As long as I can remember, I've wanted to be a dancer. And even though I did finally have my own performing company, I was struggling to grow as an artist while managing the rest of the tango ecosystem I had built around it. I kept seeing images in my mind that I didn't know how to create on stage. I recognized beautiful performance work when I saw it, but I didn't know how to make it myself. And somehow, no matter how many social dance programs I built, it just wasn't what I needed. And so that day, I just stopped. I couldn't write a single email. I left the apartment and walked for 2 hours. But when I returned, that sense of longing was still there. Something needed to change. I just didn't know what or how. Shortly after that, I took a trip to Los Angeles. While there, I decided to visit a choreographer I had met at a theater in DC a year before. Vic was and is professor in UCLA's Department of World Arts and Cultures/Dance. I wasn't thinking about graduate school when I went to see her, but as we talked, she encouraged me to apply. The deadline was coming up, and honestly, I decided to do it mostly to put off thinking about whether I actually wanted to go. When I was accepted, I was stunned. But then I had to ask myself the real question: did I actually want a master's degree in dance? Was this the change I was longing for? And was I willing to leave behind everything I'd built in DC to get it? I'll never know if that was the right choice, or whether, given more time and thought, I might have found a less disruptive way to sharpen my artistic skills and make more space in my life for my own creative development. One where I didn't have to rip myself out of the community that I had so carefully woven myself into. But in that moment, I didn't know what else to do. Maybe my judgment was not the clearest, but I knew I couldn't just go on with my life as it was. Because despite the outward success, I was feeling more and more drained. So, 6 months later, I did, in fact, leave everything. Moving geographically, severing all your social connections at once, can hit you like the loss of a loved one through death. It's a loss of identity, of selfhood. Sitting alone in my new and empty LA apartment, I wondered why I had chosen this. I felt like I had disappeared, like I was floating in space. I had a flicker of hope that LA would hold something meaningful for me, but I also feared I had made a mistake. Graduate school was an intense 3-year process. When it was finally done, my skills were as sharp as they would ever be. As a choreographer, I knew how to generate, edit, build, combine, and recombine all kinds of material. I had 100 creative tools at my disposal to make performance work. I had, in a sense, gotten what I came for. And yet, with no solid contacts, no infrastructure, there was nowhere for me to apply them in LA. I felt like a reservoir without a channel. And despite my 15 years of teaching experience, the tango business, like any business, can be unforgiving if you step away for a few years. It forgets about you. It moves on. The voice of doubt that questioned whether I had made the right decision in the first place came back. Did I make a mistake leaving everything behind in DC? Was it worth it? Did it matter how much deeper my understanding was, how much sharper my skills were, if I couldn't use them? My partner and I had not made a definite plan for what would happen after I finished school. Moving back to DC was on the table, but then he decided that he wanted to pursue his own degree. Given that he had supported my return to school, it seemed only fair that I do the same for him. The answer seemed to be just to move on from my life as a dancer. I convinced myself that I had had my run, had had my time, and that I had done as well as I could have. After all, people move on from things. Chapters close for new ones to be written. I knew that dancers had a short shelf life. And at 38, my time had passed. So when we moved from LA to Long Beach for his engineering program, I closed the tango chapter of my life. A few months after I discovered Alter Society in downtown Long Beach, I went to a concert in that gorgeous upstairs ballroom. A string quartet played arrangements of famous Beatles songs. Hundreds of electric candles were scattered across the stage. Again, I felt the same physical pull, the same pressure change in the air around me. I felt like I belonged there, but I didn't know for what or why. Then a few weeks later, I went to a coffee shop meetup around the corner. Without social dance in my life, I had struggled to make friends in Long Beach, and Meetup seemed like a good way to do that. It's an app that connects people for in-person activities. This meetup was a group of locals who met for coffee once a month. Here's Paolo, one of the 4 people I ended up chatting with that day. He's Italian and really loves his coffee.
I guess I started coffee meetups at the beginning of 2024 and close to my house, so that it was a time of the day that I could actually, for lunchtime, so that was perfect for me to get lunch during a work day. And it so happened that in that meetup, I actually met Karen, which is now my partner. So that was a pretty fortunate event right there. And the nice thing about the coffee meetup is there is a wide variety of people that show up. And just leaning back and hearing the discussion is interesting. Usually in the other meetup, it was mostly about dogs. But this one took a little bit of a turn. And it's there was somebody that mentioned, "Oh, I am a pianist." Somebody else mentioned I was living on board in the downtown marina, and of course, this person that was a tango dancer, which elicited a good amount of questions. So that's what I remember.
Paolo's partner, Karen, is one of the original members of the coffee meetup. They actually met each other in this same group at a different coffee shop about 6 months before.
I think everyone was there to meet friends as adults, which is hard to do. It's certainly why I was there. In earlier parts of your life, you're plugged into a school network or sometimes a work network. But now we live in Southern California, where even your work network might be a commuter-based thing. And it's very hard to just have a ready-made social group. So a couple months before what became the Tango Coffee Meetup connection, I'd really thought, like, okay, I have to deliberately go out and try to meet friends in ways that I don't usually have to do in my life, because they're just sort of made for you in a way. It's like, I have to do that. How do I do that? I remember I'd signed up for Meetup over a decade ago, but never used it. I'm like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go to these things where people have interests that are also trying to expand their social groups and not have a stigma around that desire to expand a social group. And everyone at what became the Tango Meetup seemed to share that goal.
I certainly didn't head out that morning planning to talk about tango. In my mind, that part of my life was in the past. But Marisa has a way of opening up a conversation, and she got us all to tell some of our own stories.
In the beginning, there was a lot of people, and I thought, you can't meet everyone because they're at the far end of the table. But then a lot of them left, and there was, 6 or 8 of us. And then I was able to ask people questions to get to know them. And I remember you saying you taught tango, and I said, "Oh, I've always wanted to learn tango. I love to dance." And I was really surprised that everyone else was interested, and that you said, "Okay, you'll teach us." So that was really happy, and it's a great core group. I like every one of them.
What were the chances of me connecting with 4 people at a single meetup who all wanted to learn tango? Yet that's exactly what happened. Here's Jubin.
You do meet some really interesting and fun and very likable people, and you do things, and like you open up, you talk about your interests and things like that. And there's usually some, like, if it goes quite well, you might actually talk about we could maybe do something else, but usually this is more talk. People don't go out of their way to make any additional time outside of the meetup. So I'd say like not only did we like it was a very comfortable group and we just kind of clicked really well and we were excited, but it was also like everybody just had that impression that we're going to kind of follow up and make sure something happens. We're not just saying we want to do something, that we're actually going to do it and making the effort to do it.
So, as if by fate, there I was with 4 brand new, very willing tango students. But the memories of both collapsing under my tango career and also of losing it were still a bit painful. Part of me was excited, in part because it seemed like such a crazy coincidence, but I still couldn't imagine organizing anything on my own. So the deal I made with myself and what I offered to Paolo, Karen, Marisa, and Jubin was this. I would teach one class if they organized it. And they did.
I'd say the yacht club was magical in its own way. I mean, especially everybody went all out. First of all, yeah, the first tango lesson at a yacht club that no one's been to, that itself is just really special. Then everybody brought food. We were like, yeah, like, I mean, everybody's energy level was fantastic, and everybody was almost like giddy with excitement. So it's hard to compare because in some ways I would say the first one was a little bit less about tango and more the excitement and all of us doing this whole special thing. And even like, I mean, I play piano too. Like it was all of this stuff. It was really special in its own right.
I really thought this was just going to be a one-time thing, but they were so excited and we had so much fun together. I couldn't help but dream about what it would be like to teach people to dance again. As the results came in from the presidential election in November, I felt my body going numb. The next morning, I sobbed in bed for an hour. I felt paralyzed with anticipatory grief. Life went on as usual. I saw my clients, kept working. But the knowledge that the country was now careening toward an avalanche of truly horrendous events was a constant anxiety. Then, after about a week, something shifted in me. It no longer felt like just a coincidence that I had gone to that coffee meetup and met Jubin, Marisa, Paolo, and Karen. I suddenly knew with a certainty that seemed to come out of nowhere that it was time for me to teach tango again, not just once, but on a regular basis. It was time for me to be a dancer again. I felt it deep as if it had always been there and had just been woken up by these intense political circumstances. That massive reservoir of knowledge and training, it was still in me, and now it wanted to come out. I think it came from a sense that I needed to do something to bring people together, locally, that I myself needed to connect with people to stay sane and make it through whatever was coming in the next few years. And I don't know any better way to do that than teach people to dance together. I just felt this is what I can do.
In the political moment we're in now, and that we were in at that meetup that was before a shift in the administration, but we knew what was coming, I was really interested in building networks, community networks that I think are the only thing that are going to provide folks in vulnerable communities any kind of safety net. And I think they need to be not be overt groups around that idea. It's just making connections so that community can fill in where larger structures are failing folks. Mm-hmm. So the tango part was sort of secondary in that way, but I enjoyed the lessons.
I asked Marisa if we could meet at her yacht club again, and we tried about 3 weeks later. But when we arrived, the room was double booked. We waited for about 20 minutes, hoping that a smaller room might become available. And then Paolo said, "Well, we can dance in my living room." And off we went like a bunch of teenagers. This spontaneity took me straight back to 1997, the year I myself had discovered tango in a completely different city, Cambridge, Massachusetts. The tango community I stumbled into back then was only a dozen people or so who met to practice every other week and who had either learned out of town or from a video. The excitement with this meetup group felt the same to me, like stumbling upon something really cool and just going for it.
Dancing is an intriguing thing. I never done it before. I thought about it many times. I've been dancing in my basement in the long winter snowing winter days in Cleveland, Ohio, but putting the music up and just getting a workout out of it. But I don't know that it's real dancing or the official dancing. I think the very first thing that quickly you mentioned is that there is this interaction between the follower and the leader, and the leader give some inputs, and the follower, based on that inputs, moves. I didn't know that's how it worked, and that already is a big, you create that connection in your brain. Oh, and that's interesting, especially if you do a desk job like I do. You want to try something different. It's a different set of mind. And, you sit in the movie and say, I wish I could do that. So there was an interest for sure, even though I never done it before.
I always wanted to try new things, and I grew up in a place that didn't have a lot of that, a small island. And I saw some shows of tango on TV and live, and it was different. There's like a story there, and it's passion and longing, and it just looks so beautiful that I was hoping my body would allow me to learn well.
Typically, tango classes have a high attrition rate. It's the most difficult of all partner dances. So for every 10 beginners, one will choose to stay with it. But by the third time we met, again in Paolo's living room, I realized that for these 4 people, this was more than just a passing interest. These folks were serious about learning tango and about doing it together. And we literally needed more space. Besides that, tango is social, and learning actually requires dancing with a variety of different people. We needed a place where we could invite more people to join us.
The group is great. I really enjoy spending time with everybody in the group. I'm loving learning tango. I'm always mildly annoyed when we have to end early after only an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. Thank you very much for the extra lesson last time. But no, I'm just really excited. It's fun, and it's nice to understand how my body works and how everybody's like kind of connecting that way and just communicating in a different way. Maybe everybody has the spark for something, but to find a group that can find that spark together, I would say it's probably really rare.
Jubin and I scouted around town a bit. I found a church with a lovely large open space, but it was way too expensive for us to rent. We asked about slow nights at a bar on 4th Street, but there were no slow nights there. I even tried a few ochos at another bar that did have space available, but the floor was way too sticky. In the end, I knew there was only one place to do this: Alter Society. It just seemed crazy, that enormous, grand, elegant space for our tiny group of 5. It was ridiculous. Still, I could not stop thinking about it, feeling that I needed to be in that building again. And so I started dropping in and talking to people. Alter is a cafe in the mornings before the full restaurant opens. One day I walked in and picked up a flyer for a yoga class. It was morning, so there weren't too many people around. But Mike, the general manager, was there. He saw me looking and said, "Oh, the yoga, it's upstairs." And this was the moment for me. Again, I felt the air bending around me with that same pulling quality. "Playing it as cool as possible," I said. "Thanks. Would you be interested in a dance class?" And that started a series of conversations. Here's Mike.
For me, the big thing is, like, obviously, wherever I'm at, I want to do the best to support the community. And I know that you had talked about getting back into it. So I was like, hey, you can have it up there on days that we don't have an event going on, which we kind of talked about. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was a pretty safe bet.
As we talked, I told him I'd been to the string quartet concert, that I had fallen in love with the space. I described what tango was like and assured him that there was absolutely no stomping involved, nothing that might damage the floor. And most importantly, that this was a group that wasn't just looking for a space. It was also a group that really wanted a place to eat and drink together every week, like a meetup.
And then it started to come together. You decided on Wednesday. We were like, Wednesday's a good day. And it was just basically, hey, go up there and utilize the space. And then all that we ask is in return, you help support the business.
So in January, on the condition that we would cancel if there were any commercial rentals, we agreed to give it a try. Special thanks to all the members of the Long Beach Tango community for their contributions to this story. You can find our schedule and free tango resources for teachers and organizers on my website, sharnafabiano.com/tango. Thanks to Glover Gill for providing music for this podcast. Thanks to Sachin Mehta for editorial support. And a huge thank you to Alter Society for their generous partnership. Alter is a craft brew pub, coffee roaster, and event space occupying a former Masonic temple in the heart of downtown Long Beach. Many vintage details of the building have been preserved, including the arched painted ceilings and ornate light fixtures. The original wood floors, exposed brick, and visible piping give the space an unfinished industrial loft aesthetic. If you are looking for a unique and elegant event space in Southern California, please reach out to Mike Coakley, General Manager, or join us for Tango and Pizza on Wednesday nights. You'll find contact information in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode or felt inspired by the story, please consider joining the Lead and Follow fan club with a contribution of as little as $3 a month. Your support really does make a difference.